This next guest coming up is a gentleman who I met last year at one of the conferences. I certainly knew his reputation and everything about him, and he impressed me as someone who really took the time with me as well. I was new to Innovative Financial Group. He didn't know who I was. I knew that he was the Medicare guru, and I met him at a conference, and he was so nice. He said, "Give me your address," and he even sent me his book to my home. And I have not finished it yet, but it is an amazing read. It is truly a fascinating read. And the gentleman is he's a sales leader, he is an author, he's a business strategist, and I'm just so excited that I get to introduce him. So without any further ado, and I believe he is here. There he is right there in front. Please put your hands together for Mr. Brandon Gray.
Yes, indeed. I actually have my cell phone. I'm actually going to click for the start because Mama Sayer actually. Is it still on here? We good to go? So I was in Ohio just recently, and Frank's mom said to me, "You're the first man I've met that talks faster than Frank." So I'm going to try to slow down a little bit, and if I need to grab the handheld as well, Dan, just let me know. I'm good either way. Okay, so perfect. So I'm going to do a few things here, but I love the thread that's been woven by everybody already spoken, because it's creating a theme of what we all came here to do. So actually, I think if you'll put my presentation on the screen, that'll keep me linear here. Testing, there we go.
Trust me, you know I'm going to roll with the punches. If I have to just scream loud and walk up and down the hallway, I'm going to get this out.
Testing, there we go. So we all came here to do what is actually the hardest for any human being to do, but we all want to do it. Everybody on the count of three shout change. 1, 2, 3. Change. That's what you came here to do. So I did a little bit of a preview in Ohio with Frank's group, and I've labeled this with some additional embellishments, Trilogy of Change. So understand, for the way I like to talk and teach, I'll be weaving in stories and things that came up in my life and things that likely come up in yours, but we're all here because we want to change, but we want to change for the better. And I heard Mason earlier, he's got that Anthony Robbins voice in his head, as do I, and he says that change is inevitable, progress is optional. We're all going to change. Has anybody seen the picture of me where I actually had a really big head full of hair? Change, baby, change. That's what happens sometimes when life comes at you. You've got to be ready to change. But I tell people, let's not just accept change, let's embrace it and own it. So the concepts I'm going to lay out for you here over the next few moments are going to be about you changing. So here we go. There's 3 short stories, and even as Tony was introducing, and I've written several books. Some of you may have read them. I believe in telling stories because stories are interesting. Stories are what we can relate to. Stories are what allow us, like what Mike Masalia did, allow us to connect our lives. I think that day 9 is now about to enter the lexicon of one life, because it's that moment of pivot where you decide I can either give in, give up, give out, or I can get back up and go at it again. So 3 short stories. First one, you down with OPP. Now don't say anything just yet. Don't say anything. For those of you that know the song, no. We're going to go in a different direction, but I'm just going to ask you, are you down with OPP? Then I'm going to ask you to go get it. And then I'm going to have a session where we say, we overcome. So, the first one, you down with OPP. So to take the mystery out of it, so that the half of you that are already saying, yeah, you know me, stands for obsession, progression, possession. Obsession. But the transitive property of equality says if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So what that really means in this sense is that obsession, the very thing that you're focused on, the very thing that you can't live without, the very thing that you're willing to pursue at all costs, is going to determine your possession. So you've got to determine in your life, what are you ready, willing, and able to be obsessed with? And if we're honest with ourselves, you can take a self-inventory, a self-reflection, and start to determine what's already being possessive in my life. What am I manifesting? Because ultimately, that's going to determine, based on this transitive property of equality, that's determining what you're obsessed with. There's just no way. I think it was, again, Mason that said, and at 25 years old, there's just a world of wisdom in that young man. And actually, for those of you that have read the book, he reminds me of Matthew Palmer. Somebody that's just getting started in the business, getting connected to mentors, getting connected to people that are willing to help him and pour into his life, but willing to value the ideas that he has. But as you bring, but you are the sum total of everything you think, which then determines everything you say, which then determines everything you do by way of action, which then becomes autogenic, fancy word for habit, which then ultimately becomes what you are, what you become. If we want to change what we possess, then we've got to change what we are obsessed with. So tell me what you're obsessed with, and I'll tell you what you will possess. Now, for most of us, obsession has a negative connotation because it means something to pursue something to the exclusion of everything else. But the reality is, we're all obsessed with something. I'm obsessed with having a good golf game, but I don't practice. So what do you think my possession is for? Look out. Don't worry, I'm getting that belt in a couple of weeks, God willing. It can't happen. But the word obsession has a negative connotation to it. You think about Glenn Close and Michael Douglas and Fatal Attraction. She became obsessed with him. But what I want to do right now is turn the definition of obsession a little bit on its head and take what Stephen Covey says as one of his first maxims in the principles of 7 highly effective people. And he says, begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. So I'm going to ask you now to think about the things you want to possess. We're going to start at the end of the line. We're going to start with what we want. We're going to begin with the end in mind. What do you want to possess? So if everybody could agree that we all came here to change, but we could all agree that change is one of the hardest things to do in terms of positive change, we all know what we're supposed to be doing. The question is, are we going to do it enough, long enough, for it to deliver us to the very thing we say we want? But what do you want to possess? If you can actually get really clear and explicit around what you want out of this life, that's going to begin to dictate the very things that bring the actions, the people, the circumstances, and everything into your life that will help you manifest that goal. But as we talked about as well, you need to write it down. In the book of Habakkuk, it says, write it down, make it plain. As a matter of fact, the way it was written in the original language is that it's an obelisk. If you've ever seen those high towers that have all the writing carved on it, it literally says that he may run that readeth it. So when passersby come by your tablet, what would they see about your life and what you proclaim is going to happen? If you've not written down your goals, you already don't have the materials for being possessed by them or obsessed by them. Because you're then just making a haphazard statement of the things you wish could be right in your life. You're making a haphazard statement about the things you wish could be different. But how many people right now are truly serious about their success? Raise your hands at me. If you're serious, first of all, you're here. So you're already demonstrating another layer and level of success-mindedness than most of the people out there. But I know Scott Glenn has talked about this before in some of his meetings, that Harvard study that was done back in the 70s, 80s, it followed these people. 97% of them did not have written defined goals, and these are Harvard graduates. 3 had those written defined goals. I know you've heard this before, but the question is, why aren't we doing it to the level that brings an obsession that we know, again, by that transitive law of equality? I'm going to say that again because it makes me sound so smart. How many people know if you're going to be obsessed by it, you can possess it? And the first framework for that is for your goals to be written. And then it needs to be a life of balance, which means you've got to have goals that encompass everything: mental, spiritual, social, physical, and financial. I was talking to Jimmy Parker, and hoping not to call you out, Jimmy, but you got here a little bit later in the afternoon. It's because you wanted to go to an event your daughter had, and then you high-footed it down here. Keith Reel said the same thing. He got here at 3 a.m. or woke up at 3 a.m. to drive here because he wanted to be somewhere where his kids were. It's years ago when I had pursued money like I think a lot of us would have, and I know it's what Mike said as well. And here's the thing: when you start talking to really successful people that have money and they tell you to take your mind off of money, it almost sounds like we're saying we don't want you to have any money, so take your mind off of it. What we're really telling you is we've had so many day nines where money was running the engine of the train that we then realized put money at the caboose. So my mantra became having fun. Anybody ever talk to me? Raise your hand if you've ever had any conversation with me. Am I fun to talk to? Oh, I am a riot. Why? Because if I'm with you, we're going to have fun. Having fun, helping people, enjoying rich experiences while building great wealth became my mantra in a day 9 moment that I'm about to show you. I literally said, I bleep the money. But actually, I want the money. Is it a paradox? No. It's just simply a matter of saying what matters in life requires money, but that doesn't mean that money has to be the fixation or the obsession. So I want to clear that up right now, that anything we're talking about possessing is not to be obsessed with the thing. It's to almost be obsessed with what we become when we start pursuing the thing. Right on? So now, why do you want it? And somebody's already talked about the why as well. There's always this axiom out there that says, if you know what you want, writing it down, if you know why you want it, you can endure. And if your why is big enough, you can endure anyhow. Whatever it is, whatever it takes. Mark shaking his head because he knows, because he exemplifies it. So what will it mean to your life? That's really what the why statement is. It's a statement of value. Now I'm going to weave in a little bit of sales training right here and again show you how well skilled I am. Value is how we sell to our clients. What John Saw just did in terms of what a life insurance policy is, in a word, was value. Everything we do every day is value. Otherwise, you're out order taking and commoditizing the solutions that these carriers have developed for us, and you will find that that's going to be ineffective over the long haul. How do you overcome objections? Value. How do you mitigate objections? Value. If what I show you satisfies you to the level that it obliterates all the reasons you would not do it, then you are going to do it. Which is the very reason this woman has been married to me for 32 years come Thursday. Yes, sir. I provided such high value. How's she going to object to this? She knew it was coming. So value in its equation is price divided by benefits. If I show you big benefits, the price becomes insignificant. The numerator, the denominator, when one's bigger, the value goes down. When one's smaller, the value goes up. In everything we do, we've got to provide value, or else we do not have leverage against ourselves that will allow us to pursue things in a way that will help us reach our goals. So you have to get the same leverage over yourself. The same way you demonstrate value to a client and overcome their objections. Do you know whose objections are the hardest to overcome? Your own. They're hard to overcome. When Chester Ash texts me at 4:30 a.m. and says, time to get it in, Brandon, get your butt up and let's work out. have a moment where I can decide, I'm going to act like I didn't see that, Chester. And then he sends a picture with a hood on, looking like C.T. Fletcher, saying, get your butt out that bed. If you know who C.T. Fletcher is. He's actually the Mike Messiah of working out. He got a few choice words for you. Some of you got that, yes. But I'm at that critical moment where I have to decide if the benefit of what I'm going to do is greater than the price I have to pay, and if there is a value to it to the point that I overcome my own objection. Most of us are mired in our own mind talk, self-talk, and we're talking ourselves out of our possessions. So what is your why? And I know that's come up a lot, but Simon Sinek would be absolutely correct that says if you can determine the why and emotionalize it and make it tangible and make it real and make it to where the benefits outweigh the price you have to pay, because before you can possess the benefits, you have to pay the price. So how many people have things that they want? Raise your hand if you have things you want. That would be everybody. Keep your hands up if you're willing to pay the price for that thing you want. So that I can almost assure you that in due time, in due season, if you faint not, if you don't talk yourself out of it, you will have it. You will have it. So then, there's something stronger than benefits in the world of sales. I was actually classically trained back in my day, back with another carrier years ago, under something called spin selling. Anybody ever been exposed to spin selling? I got a few people. Anybody raise your hand up high back there? So spin selling, I got a chance to meet Neil Rackham. He's a behavioral scientist. He's not even a salesperson, but he analyzed tens of thousands of transactions in all types of sales environments. Transactional, major sales, and he came up with the simplest formula, and it's called spin selling, which is an acronym. S stands for situation, P stands for problem, I stands for implication, N stands for need payoff. What's your situation? What's the problem with that situation? Well, if you don't solve that situation, what's going to happen in your life? That's kind of bad if you don't solve that. Well, what if I were in a position to help you with that problem? Would you be willing to do business with me? That's the situation, that's the problem, that's the implication, that's the need payoff. If you do that self-assessment with every part of your life and say, what's my current situation? Am I broke? What's the problem with being broke? What's the problem if I'm like Mason, if I can't buy the OR? Actually, he said, I didn't get to buy the R, and I said, that would be poo. Sorry. But if you're broke, it might as well be poo. Thank you, Crystal. Love you. I'm going to put you on the laugh track, girl. Come on now. But here's the deal. If I don't do something about it, then my life's going to only get worse. I remember telling Natalie in the first 5-7 years of those 32 years that, it can't get any worse. Wrong. It can get worse. And she hung in. So here's the deal. So if somebody can come, when you self-reflect and ask yourself, what's my situation? How is my relationship at home? What's the problem with it? If I don't fix that, what's the implication? How bad can it get? But if you could fix that, would you do something about it? That's the need payoff. But then what you do, something is stronger than features and something stronger than benefits or advantages. And in the world of spin selling, it actually talks about features being what something is, benefits what it does, advantages what it does for you. So if I held up a $20 bill, which I'm about to do, what are the features of a $20 bill? It's paper, it's green, it's got numbers on it. The benefits is that it has cash value, it can be exchanged. But I'd ask the question, would everybody do the same thing with this $20 bill? No. Who said that? Lisa, come on and get it, girl. Come on and get it. Lisa Freeman, FFIG, trying to get that $2,000 above her needs every month. Come on up. Girl, you better run and come get this money. We on time here. Come on now. This ain't Bob Barker. You got to come get this money. Thank you, Lisa. So now, I know you may not be able to see it, but what's that? So who said that? Watch your mouth now. That's a $100 bill. Don't y'all be trying to look too hard. I gotta put that back quick. But like P. Diddy said, more money, more problems. We're in the problem-solving business, and the bigger problems we can solve for people, the more they beat the path to our door, the more they jump into the ideas and opinions and opportunities and advising that we give them. But you have to do the same thing. You're coming at your own life with a $20 value, when you should be multiplying the value you have right now, just kinetically and potentially. You have more potential right now than you're exhibiting. And like Scotty said earlier, if we're taking it in a quantitative environment, we need to put a dollar amount on what we want to possess, and what it would do when we get it, how we distribute it, how we would help, etc. But qualitatively, if it's going to change the very fabric of your life, then why isn't there enough value in that change proposition that we'll endure the effort and pay the price to possess it? Is everybody still with me? All right. So then, how bad do you want it? Because here's the thing. Anybody ever been shocked on their rent? I have. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell a quick little story. So I remember back when our kids were little, they used to want Tony the Tiger because they're great. But they were expensive. Anybody got kids trying to buy cereal now? It's almost like prime rib trying to buy cereal. And my wife now is there to attest to this now, because you can't make this life up. We went to Walmart and bought something called malt oatmeal. Anybody ever had some malt oatmeal? Oh, raise your hands high, you government cheese people, you. Raise your hands high. Malt oatmeal comes in a plastic bag. At the time we bought it, it wasn't even resealable. You had to pour it out, knock the air out, run it down, and put a clothespin on it. Anybody know what a clothespin is? You got your unmentionables hanging up in the backyard, I know. Drawers just a flapping. I'm sorry, underwear, unmentionables just in the air. So I'm sorry. Mary, thank you, Mary. I went old school on them. I went back too far. My brain started to slip. The mic's getting hot. But I took the malt oatmeal and put it in the Tony the Tiger box. And I said, now kiddies, pray before you pour milk on that now. Because anybody that's had some malt oatmeal know that malt oatmeal is going to disintegrate when you put the milk on it. God, pray over the food, and then pour the milk and eat. Ooh, this Tony the Tiger's on point. Little digression. Some of y'all are doing that with every lead you get. Lead's just a cornflake. Just an opportunity. Could be raisin bran, crispy. Could be the Lindy kind of raisin bran that you don't like. Could be the cornflake with no sugar on it, but you pour sugar on it anyway. And then the bottom of the milk is real crunchy, but it's good. The point is, when you know how bad you want your life to change, you'll get leverage on yourself. And until you get leverage on yourself, and it doesn't have to be a rock bottom, but a day 9 is a really good thing. And I think it was Mason, that's my third reference to Mason. He's going to probably charge me for that at this point. But the valley, and in Joel, I think it's Joel 3:16, it says, in the day of decision. And then it literally says, comma, in the valley of decision. The valley is where you make your best decisions. And most people do not make their best decisions on the mountaintop. Too busy celebrating. Oh, when time gets hard and you feel like you're about to lose something, all of a sudden your clarity comes, your focus comes, your tenacity comes, your fight comes, and then you're ready. So how bad do you want, how bad do you need it? So now we have to transition, because of the transitive law of equality, obsession equals possession. We've just targeted our possession, what we we want, how we want it, when we want it. But this is where obsession comes in. It will make you pay the price. If obsession is casual, then the possession may not happen. Lack of true obsession means you're willing to take shortcuts to get it. Because if you just do things casually, you're going to receive casually. But our system of life now, economically, relationship-wise, you can now build, and nothing wrong with this if you find the love of your life this way, but you can now say, I want to find somebody. I'm going on to different websites or different apps, and I can just swipe through people. Oh, I like this one. What do you know you like about it? But we hitting no. We're swiping and we're clicking. Economically, some of the best thing that happened to some people in the country was 2008 and 9 and the contagion, because it forced you to let the credit cycle go. Credit in my book is the lowest form of prosperity. Now notice I said prosperity, but it is the lowest form. I want it, that's great. And I got a credit card with limit on it. I can swipe it and go get it. But the payments are going to keep coming if you're not cycling it off every 30 days. So what I'm saying is if you're just casually obsessed, you're likely to take shortcuts to get the things you want. And then there was an episode of Star Trek, you knew I was going to do this eventually, where Leonard Nimoy was, as Spock, had to go to his planet, Vulcan, to do the mating ritual called Pongfar. And again, where's Joe Hodges? I love you, Joe. Thank you so much, Joe, for being a live long and prosper kind of guy. And literally, Spock had to fight to bring the lady that he was betrothed to, but because he was gone all the time, he was not in real relationship with her. So she found her another man. Scandalous on Star Trek, right? But then he had to fight for him, and Captain Kirk said, well, this young man will kill Spock. Let me fight him. And so Spock and Captain Kirk fight, and ultimately, Bones gave him an injection of oxygen that made it look like Captain Kirk was dead, but Spock didn't know he wasn't dead. And it literally said, when T'Pau, the lady that ruled the area, said, live long and prosper, Spock, he said, I shall do neither. I have killed my captain. But then he said something a little bit later on that stuck with me, even as a child watching that show, and being fixated on science fiction and all those things. He literally said to him when he said, when I thought I'd killed my captain, the desire went away. And he literally said, there is more pleasure in the wanting than the having. The Bible says that hope deferred makes the heart sick. But then, comma, it says, but desire. Now, desire is not the thing. Desire is the hope for the thing or the obsession for the thing. It says, but when desire comes, it's a tree of life. Anybody ever gotten excited knowing you were pursuing the goals you had written down? There's something magical about knowing as progressive creatures. We're built for accomplishment, for achievement. When we start getting closer, it makes us feel fantastic. But in this case, we have to be careful that the process doesn't overrule the possession. Which means enjoy the 16 days. Even when you go home with no RAM. But you know you're going home to Ange. Some of that, if the mountains are whispering to you, is to set up perspective of life. But then the next day, on the first day, he's right back in that valley in 10,000 square miles of something that I would never have gone with you on. I like creature comforts way too much to live in a hut with my man Mike. So now, singular focus is what obsession intimates. It tells us distraction is the enemy of obsession. We need knowledge. If we're going to pursue something, we have to know what it is and how it works. And I always say smart skims the surface, but genius goes deep. And then you need discipline, consistency. So your obsession, whatever it is you want to possess, that's beginning with the end in mind. Take that possession that you desire. We've got to now become obsessed with it, and that way I want. Obsession is a force. Obsession is a force. Progression is motion, and motion takes force. So progression begins from the force that is created by obsession. And Newton's 3 laws of motion state an object won't move by itself. See, I had salespeople back in my carrier side of the environment, hundreds of agents that worked for me in a W-2 world, and we all the time had to do carrot and stick. Self-motivation or artificial motivation. But we, as independents, we don't really have that carrot and stick except for making the goals and dreams of our lives happen, or maybe coming out of struggle. But you won't move unless your obsession, the force, gets you moving. But then here's the good news. It says it won't stop until another force acts on it. And I'm here to tell you, whether I look like the nicest guy in the world, I'm fun to be with, I'm actually really pretty intense. I'm intense in ways that most people, because if you're going to be nice, your intensity has to come from another direction. Oh, but the whole time I'm shaking your hand saying, good job, you beat me, I'm thinking next time I get this sucker, I'm going to wear him out. And the handshaking is genuine, but the force, the obsession to be excellent, to be good, to see people do well in this business, that's what drives me. You're going to see that in a moment. So there were a couple of laws of Newton. I'm going to step in. So progress is a process. Progression requires that you employ patience. The book of James says, count it all joy, employ patience. Let patience do its thing. Let patience bring the work. And then earlier it says first the blade, then the ear, then the full corn in the ear. And then it says that you don't even understand that process, but when you let the force of progression do what it does, then you'll get 30, 60, and 100-fold. And then you have to have faith. So obsession is a seed. Progression is time. Possession is the harvest. When I break it down like that, the old school saints understand what I'm telling them. Seed, time, harvest. Seed, time, harvest. Everybody help me one time. Everybody shout seed. Seed. Everybody shout time. Time. Everybody shout harvest. Harvest. Obsession, progression, possession is that same linear formula. So now, I'm going to run you through something. Go get it. See, that's again the difference. I can be nice if I know I'm going to go get it. And in Newton's laws, I create the force that gets me rolling, and I create the force that stops me. Which means you can't stop me. Which means I don't have to be fearful of you. I don't have to compete with you. I can love you unabashedly. Because I'm going to get mine, because the cattle on 1,000 hill is on my hill. But I got Mike Messiah 10,000 square miles that direction with his ram on the hill. Or more specifically, Jehovah Jireh, ram in the bush. Point is, I'm not after what you're after. So I can actually tell each one of you to go get it. So now a story that involves, see, did you lose something? Has anybody ever lost something? Anybody ever lost something precious though? And even as Frank outlined it, have you ever lost opportunity in which, oh my gosh, I missed that one. Lord, just give me one more chance. Give me one more chance to get back up and do the right thing. I promise this time I'll be good. It's like when I was a child and your mama used to whoop you. And you're like, I'll be good, mama, I'll be good. And she's steadily whacking you. Mama, I told you I'll be good. She said, yeah, but this is just insurance. I want to make sure you're going to be good. So if you lost something, let's go get it. So now, one more time for the lexicon of day 9. This was my day 9. And there's only one person in this room that understands my day 9, and that's my 32-year boo right here. Met him when we were 14. It's been 40 years. Anybody got more than 32 years of marriage? Oh, we got all Tommy, Mike, Miss Catherine. I got some hands up, hands up. Throw your hands up, because that's all 9 minutes. We're right on. And it's out of Samuel 1:30. And it's where David and his army had gone off to fight another battle. And they come back home. And the Amalekites have taken everything and everybody. And the 600 men that were with David despaired. They even talked about stoning David because they said it's your fault. And David went to the elders, and they conferred with the ephod, which was a way for them to determine. And he said, shall I go after these people? Because here's the thing, until you consult God, don't go get anything. But if he says pursue, which is what they told David, then you need to go get it. So then, I wrote down some things that talk to me around those scriptures. The first says, the enemy comes when you're distracted. Because I will admit to you, at that stage of my development, at that stage of my life, I've become a little bit, man, look what I've done. Look what I've built. Look what I've created. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Now, I wasn't braggadocious or boastful, but there was an internal confidence that I'd lacked in the early stages of my life and career because we'd struggled financially. But now, all of a sudden, I'm on the top of a really big mountain and big things are happening. But I got distracted and the enemy came in. But he then said to me, do not be discouraged by what you lost. And then there will be people in your life that disappoint you. I even have a saying now that I use. As human beings, we will disappoint each other. Contracts make sure we don't betray each other. Use devotion to receive your guidance for the next strategy to recover everything you've lost. Engage discipline to fight when those around you have given up. There was a period in this where they were pursuing the Amalekites, the 600 people, and 200 of them got exhausted and said, we can't go any further. But then God provided David with an ally, a mentor, who is there for your development in your season of need. And then your adversary, the Amalekites, were celebrating the spoils of war, having taken the women, the children, the money, and the loot. And David went over there with 400 of his soldiers, 200 having left by the lake because they were exhausted, and he recovered all. And he took back all that was taken and more, his deliverance. So when I tell you to go get it, I want you to think about that thing you've given up on as a goal or a dream in your life. And then you ask the spirit within you, the intuition, the side of you that knows and you're knowing, should I be pursuing this? I gave up on it. And if the word is to pursue, go get it. So this is what happened the next day. The next day. Here's the thing. I whiteboard and I journal, so I respect Mike heavily for the journal. I have my entire life in binders at home. But these were a series of whiteboards. There was a total of 30 of them that all happened in one day, the next day. Those whiteboards became this. How many have seen that book?
Sir.
Now, that's my seed, that's my obsession. Because what I was going to get back came from this industry, because I lost it from this industry. And I said, this industry still owes me something, and I still owe it something. That was 2011. But I said in the sense of obsession, progression, possession, that was analogous to seed, time, harvest. But now I've got a mentality that I'm going to go get what's mine, and this is now part of my life's obsession. But little did I know, I thought the world would just love me and embrace me and say, man, like Kimmy said to me once, and not to put the salty good words out of her mouth 2012, nothing. 2013, nothing. 2014, I forgot about it. Hundreds of them in my basement. Medicare facts all wrong, Part A wrong, Part B wrong, all kind of wrongness in the book because they just stacking up. 2015, nothing. And this is calling everybody in the industry that I once worked with, help them make millions flying jets around the country. We love you, Brandon. Well, let me come help you grow. Not one, actually. One. In 2016, I'm sitting out on my deck, looking at that book one more time because it just happened. It fell off the shelf and I pulled off another book and it fell down on the ground. And I looked at it and I thought, what am I going to do with this? So that day, I screamed over the balcony to her in the yard and said, this is really good. I'm doing it again. I got my second win. And I did another whiteboard that listed all the IMOs and FMOs that I would start calling again. The next day, Scott Clanton called me. I've not talked to Scott Clanton in almost 7-8 years. Matter of fact, last time we passed each other on the street, he was cordial. We hugged. Aaron was with him. Natalie was with me. We were at Tanger Mall. But you wouldn't want to know this, but our organizations were fighting over several millions of dollars in commission, but he treated me like a long-lost brother. And when he picked up the phone and when he called and he left the message, and I said, Scott Clanton called me. I said, man, do we still owe him money? Why is he calling me 7 years later? So I called him. And then I went down the next day. And then I saw Scotty on a video. And then the next day, the Wednesday of the following Monday, we talked, and Wednesday they said, we want to do this. And I literally said, put me in front of as many people as you can. Because now I have a heart to serve and spread a message that to me is missionary. So I'm going to run through this real quick. So I want you to know that when your seed, time, and harvest, expect delays. But when God gives you the seed of an idea, you're supposed to act on it. Irregardless of the conditions, irregardless of the circumstances, irregardless of whether there's instant gratification, the delay is not denial. Expect them. Be steadfast. So now I want us to do this last little bit here in 5 minutes, 5 minutes. We overcome. Revelation 12:11 says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony. That's why the thigh master sells so many. Everybody wants Suzanne Summers' thighs from back in the 79, 80 range. That's why the Chia Pet, a good infomercial will sell anything. Because testimonies matter. So here's the thing. 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months. I started sowing seeds 36 months ago, June, and I said there's going to be yay-sayers, naysayers, and wait-seers. Sower sows the word. Some on good ground, some on stony, thorny, choked out ground, shallow ground. It didn't matter. God had resurrected a part of my vision. So I was indiscriminate. But I got a 3-month agent, Tyler Jackson out of Alabama. Got his health license in 18, sold his first app in AP of 2018, ended up with over 100 apps in 7 weeks. And the Greenberg, 3 chores, these are texts they sent me, 3 chores in the last 2 days, closing in on 100 active clients. We'll have a glass of wine when I hit it. Thank you for getting me to buy it. I couldn't have done it without you. Went from Medicare idiot, now that's his words, not mine, but it's appropriate, in October to having 100 clients before May. Absolutely life-changing, my man. 6 months is all it took from going from struggling to make cash to knowing 2020 will be a huge year for me, and moop, there it is. He also just got his jacket for selling $10,000 in a week of final expense. Bill Russell, top agent with Transamerica. Met him a year ago. He's part of the Jim Mall team. He's been working with Medicare 12 months. About this time last year I got started. I probably have 200 to 250 members now enjoying the ride. 18 months, Alex Diffie and Wade Bisley and Whitman Reese are here as well. Meeting you a few years ago changed my business and life for the better big time. That's my timer saying you got 3 minutes. I am glad to attest that the opportunity is vast and real. Wrote my first MA on December 7th. Does anybody know what December 7th is? That's the last day. He wrote his first one on the last day. But now, he and his core team, Whitman and Wade, have written over 360, about 120 each, have 8 ready to sell agents, and their goal is to write 1,000. Adam Van Daly, you guys heard his testimony last time. The Lord has allowed Medicare to be very, very good to me. I wrote my first MA in Medicare 2017, in the MA 2017, finished the year around 100. 2018 was the first time I really worked. It paid him almost $30,000 in January. In just 2 years, I've been blessed to have over 200 on the books. To God be the glory. Look at that baby right there. Sweet thing. That's actually, when he calls me, that's the face I see, because I don't want to answer it if it's Adam, but I'll answer it for her. That's this doppelganger. And then Sean Collins. Medicare goes hand in hand with final expense and provides an extra opportunity to help someone and make money. Also takes the pressure off having to make a sale for final expense. Normally, the less pressure, the better the agent. Started the AEP in 2016, and now he's got about 400. I had one other person there, Keith Reel, who had a very similar testimony. And what I'm saying is, it went from me having an inspired thought where God resurrected my dream, resurrected my obsession, had a 6-7 year denial period, and then Scott Glenn called me 7 years later out of the blue, and now we are having a movement that is changing the lives of the agents and people around. So what does that summary mean? I want to know what your story is. Everybody said they wanted to change, everybody said they want to possess, but what are you going to be obsessed with that generates your progression and your possession? What is it that you've lost or given up on in your life, and it's time now for you to do what? Go get it. And then certainly, I am expecting a bigger range of testimonies. I had some folks walk up to me as I've been walking around saying similar things. And do you know, it's not gratifying to me by way of me. It's gratifying in the sense that it says, Lord, you did not forsake me. You did not forget me. And in the moments where I thought I could just let everything go and give up, you sent a seed, idea, an innovation, an ingenuity. And now I have people that I'm blessed to be able to support and help and do it with. So one last time, I want everybody to shout change. Think about it just for 30 seconds. What if you could change right now and make it your brilliant, beautiful obsession? What would that be? And the next time I see you 3 months from now, 6 months, 18, 24, 36, 48, whatever it is, I want to know that your story has changed for the better and that you're writing the best chapters of your life. One Life, I love you, I thank you, and I appreciate the time.